All right. This is my new Substack promo. And here, I want to look at this image. I've been sort of worming my way through all the media lately and carefully following the events that have been going on around the world and looking for interesting things to comment on. And yesterday I saw a clip from a Donald Trump rally that he held a few days ago in Georgia. And he brought this individual, this Marine, Lance Corporal Hunter Ian Clark, up on stage and congratulated him for saving this baby, which I thought was entirely appropriate. And it's a compassionate thing for this soldier to have done. Let's take a look at it. It's digital, of course, because we're in hyper-modernity now. Everything is digitized. But take a look at it. Pulls the baby up there and right there. I think that's the most interesting shot. And I think what's interesting about it, this image is iconic of the entire debacle of Biden's withdrawal from Afghanistan. I think it sums it up in one image. On the one hand, yes, it is a compassionate image of a soldier reaching down to take this baby from a father who has told the soldier that the baby is sick. And so he's made an exception and pulls the baby up by the arm from the people wanting to get in. And I think the image is just as iconic, let's say, as the final image of Vietnam, of the last American helicopter in April of 1975 on the rooftop of the U.S. Embassy here, that's just seated there with the blades going, and they're taking in. There's a whole line of people who want to get out of Saigon because the North Vietnamese are coming. They're on the way, and it was a very similar situation, very hasty and poorly orchestrated exit, although nowhere near as badly orchestrated as the Biden administration's withdrawal from Afghanistan, leaving behind $85 billion in super high-tech, sophisticated equipment like Black Hawk helicopters and Humvees and night vision goggles and biometric data on the Americans still trapped there. We don't know how many Americans are left right now in Afghanistan. It could be in the hundreds, it could be in the thousands. Nobody seems to know. I've watched all kinds of news media videos, and there's no clear, coherent number. So we have no eyes on the ground there after having foolishly given up Bagram Air Base. And that was done in a very cowardly way. I thought that on July 1st, the Americans withdrew during the night, very quietly and stealthily withdrew from Bagram and did not notify the new Afghani guy that was brought in to be in charge of the place. He wasn't even notified. So there was no proper handover, just a complete abandonment of Bagram. And the Chinese are looking to buy it, perhaps, if they can afford it. The Chinese are having economic issues right now with the Evergrande collapse and so forth. So it reminds me of this kind of iconic image. When we think of the end of the Vietnam War, you can never get this image out of your mind of the helicopter and the doomed line of people waiting to get onto it. There's only going to be a few of them, maybe 3, maybe 4 who can fit on that thing. And that's it. Time to go. So now, regarding the image of the soldier pulling the baby up, let's compare that. I think the image has a lot of really interesting semiotics in it. It's not just quite as simple as it appears to be. Let's take a look at this image here. This is Raphael, 1515. This is in the Sistine Chapel, his painting of the miraculous draught of the fishes, where Christ is seated in a boat, and it's Peter. Here's Peter in front of him there. He's been out fishing all night, and James and John are in the other boat, and this is Peter and Andrew. So he's been out fishing all night and hasn't been able to catch any fish at all. And Christ comes and tells him, well, let's go out on the lake, and he gives a sermon or preaching, whatever. And then after it's over, he says, now take that net and cast it into the waters and see what happens. So they take the net, and then over here, James and John are reaching down into the waters with the net, pulling it up, and now it's miraculously full of fish. And Peter's astonished, and he goes to Christ and he says, you should go away from me because I'm a sinful man. And Christ says to him, don't be afraid. Now I'm going to make you fishers of men. So in other words, Christianity is the religion that has come along to pull the human soul out of the darkness of the waters of spiritual ignorance, to pull it out of the depths of merely sensuous, material experiences on the physical plane, to resonate at a higher frequency. Let's say that there is a higher frequency, namely love and compassion. And so this is now the mission, is to transform these guys from fishermen into fishers of men, saving their souls. And I think we can see that in the image of the soldier pulling the baby up, it's a similar kind of image where here comes heroic America to save a single soul and to extract it from the swirling mass of refugees down below, and to extract one single soul and pull it out and save it. So it has a similar kind of semiotic to it. But on the other hand, there's an irony in the image. Let's go back to the image. And the irony in the image consists of the fact that it shows exactly what the Biden administration did not do. It did not extract its own American citizens who were over there. We don't know if it's hundreds or thousands, as I said, but also their Afghani allies. And biometric data was left behind for the Taliban to go knocking house to house to find those allies, and they've been killing them. So this is what the Biden administration, the image is perfect because it encapsulates in one single video image, because this is hypermodernity, so we only do video things. Everything is digitized now. Back in Vietnam, it was photography. To extract the individual, and the failure on the part of the Biden administration to pull out these Afghani allies and American citizens. It was a total failure. So the image synopsizes and summarizes in a weird, ironic way. On the one hand, the heroism of this soldier doing this. He didn't have to do it. He could have ignored the request. And on the other, the irony that it shows on a micro scale, everything that went wrong. The failure to pull people out of this realm of chaos and anarchy that the Taliban represents. They are, after all, only a barbarian war band. And I've heard today that they've resolved the issues at the Kabul airport and they've opened it, not yet to commercial flights, but they have opened it today. And that clearly is a political move for them to try to get recognition by other states as a legitimate government. So far, no other state anywhere has recognized them as legitimate, because they're not legitimate. They're barbarians. They behead people. They beat up women. There has been plenty of images recently after the American withdrawal of them beating up women. You can see it. Pull up the videos if you want. They're there to be seen. Just over here on the right-hand side, we see the Taliban hang 4 bodies from cranes in Afghanistan. This is 1 day ago. 4 bodies. They made up something about these. I don't know what the plot was, but they're clearly the same old Taliban that you used to know back in the 90s, in the early 2000s. They're the same people. There's no change here. There's not going to be a change, and there isn't going to be any recognition of equal rights for women. That's one thing they are non-negotiable on. But isn't it interesting? I like the comment that Alain Badiou made. I don't agree with his politics because he wants to bring communism back. But in his book Ethics, where he says one of the hypocrisies of these kinds of humanitarian missions is that the idea is that we'll respect your differences the more like us you are. We'll respect your differences, but you got to be more like us in the West and treat your women fairly. They have to have an equal say. They have to have employment in the workplace and schools. Once you're more like us, then we'll respect your differences. It's total hypocrisy, and it's hilarious. It's never going to happen. So I don't think anyone's going to ever recognize the Taliban as a legitimate government. There's nothing legitimate about them. And soon they will start plotting again for more attacks, and you can thank President Biden for that. And so we'll stop there with this promo.